Your Social Security check could go up by hundreds of dollars in 2026, and this isn't just about the annual cost of living adjustment. There are two separate pieces of legislation moving through Congress right now that could put real money back in your pocket. One targeting a temporary $200 monthly increase, and another proposing a permanent $150 boost, along with major reforms to how Social Security is funded. The first bill is called the Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act, and it's designed to help seniors deal with the crushing cost of inflation that the 2.5% COLA clearly didn't cover. The second is the Safe Social Security Act, which goes even further by increasing benefits, fixing the COLA formula, and lifting the income cap so high earners finally pay their fair share into the system. Here's why this matters right now. Congress has spent most of 2025 ignoring these issues while seniors struggled to make ends meet. The average retiree only saw a $48 increase from the 2.5% COLA, but Medicare Part B premiums went up, grocery prices stayed high, and rent kept climbing. Suddenly, in early 2026, two major proposals drop within days of each other. So what changed? And more importantly, what are the chances these bills actually pass and get money into your account? Stick with me because I'm going to break down exactly who qualifies, how much you could realistically expect, when payments might start, and what could derail this before it ever happens. Let's start with the $200 monthly increase, because that's the one getting the most attention. The Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act was introduced by a group of Senate Democrats led by Senator Elizabeth Warren. If it passes, eligible recipients would get an extra $200 per month starting in January 2026 and running through July 2026. That's 7 months total, which adds up to $1,400 if you receive the full benefit period. Now, who qualifies? This isn't just for Social Security retirement benefits. The bill covers Social Security retirement recipients, SSI recipients, railroad retirees, disabled veterans, and those receiving veterans' pensions. If you're on Social Security disability insurance, you're included too. That's a huge group. We're talking about more than 70 million Americans who could see this increase. The stated reason for the bill is inflation. Prices for everyday essentials like food, gas, and healthcare have been climbing, and the argument is that the 2.5% COLA wasn't enough to cover those increases. The $200 is meant to be an emergency relief measure, a temporary stopgap while Congress figures out a longer-term solution. Here's the thing, though. This is a temporary increase. It's not permanent. After July 2026, the $200 goes away unless Congress extends it or passes something else. The bill is structured this way intentionally because temporary measures are usually easier to pass than permanent ones. There's less pushback about long-term budget impacts, and it gives lawmakers a way to say they're helping without committing to a massive ongoing expense. That said, temporary doesn't mean guaranteed. The bill still has to make it through committee, get enough votes in the Senate, pass the House, and get signed into law. And we're already in January 2026, so if this is going to happen by the proposed January start date, it needs to move fast. That timeline is tight, and while there's bipartisan interest in helping seniors, getting anything through Congress quickly is rare. Now let's talk about the second piece of legislation, which is arguably more significant in the long run, the Safe Social Security Act. Safeguarding Americans' Families and Expanding Social Security was introduced by Senator Brian Schatz from Hawaii. This one is structured completely differently. Instead of a temporary boost, it proposes a permanent increase of more than $150 per month on average, along with 3 major reforms to the Social Security system. First reform, lifting the payroll tax cap. Right now, Social Security taxes only apply to the first $168,600 of income in 2024, and that number adjusts slightly each year. If you make $50,000, you pay Social Security tax on all of it. If you make $500,000, you only pay on the first $168,600. Everything above that, tax-free when it comes to Social Security. The SAFE Act would phase out that cap entirely. Under this proposal, high earners would pay Social Security taxes on every dollar they make, just like everyone else. This is a major shift, and it would bring billions of additional dollars into the Social Security Trust Fund every year. The argument is simple. Why should someone making $30,000 pay taxes on 100% of their income, while someone making $3 million only pays on a fraction of theirs? Second reform, recalculating benefits to increase the average monthly payment by $150. The details on exactly how this works aren't fully spelled out yet, but the goal is to raise the baseline benefit formula so that everyone, current retirees and future beneficiaries, gets more each month. This isn't a one-time payment, it's a permanent adjustment to how benefits are calculated. Third reform, changing how the COLA is determined. Right now, Social Security uses the CPI-W, which tracks the spending patterns of urban wage earners and clerical workers. The problem is that index doesn't reflect how retirees actually spend their money. Seniors spend more on healthcare and housing, which tend to rise faster than other costs. The SAFE Act would switch to the CPI-E, an index designed specifically for elderly consumers. If that happens, future COLAs would likely be higher and more accurately reflect what retirees are actually paying for. This bill also addresses the long-term solvency issue. Social Security is projected to run out of reserves by 2032. When that happens, the program can only pay out what it collects in payroll taxes, which would cover about 75% of scheduled benefits. That means a 25% across-the-board cut unless something changes. By lifting the income cap and bringing in more revenue, the SAFE Act aims to extend the life of the trust fund and avoid those cuts entirely. So now the question is, what are the chances either of these bills actually becomes law? Let's be realistic. The $200 temporary increase has stronger short-term momentum because it's framed as emergency relief and it's time-limited. That makes it easier to sell politically, but even with that, it still needs to clear multiple hurdles. Committee votes, floor votes, potential amendments, and then the whole process starts over in the House. If there's strong public pressure and a sense of urgency around inflation, it could move. But it's January 2026 already, and we haven't seen floor action yet. The SAFE Act faces a steeper climb. Lifting the payroll tax cap is going to meet resistance from high earners and the lawmakers who represent their interests. Any bill that raises taxes, even on a narrow group, is politically tricky. And even though the bill is framed as making the system more fair, opponents will argue it's a tax increase that could hurt small business owners and high-income professionals who are already paying significant federal taxes. That doesn't mean it's impossible. There's growing awareness that Social Security needs structural reform, and public opinion polling consistently shows that Americans across the political spectrum support protecting and expanding Social Security. If enough pressure builds, and if the 2032 insolvency date starts feeling more urgent, we could see movement, but expecting this to pass quickly would be optimistic. Here's what almost nobody talks about when these proposals come up. The money has to come from somewhere. The $200 temporary increase doesn't specify a funding source in the current version of the bill. It's framed as emergency relief, which often means it would be deficit funded, added to the national debt. That's how a lot of emergency measures work. But it also means there will be lawmakers who oppose it on fiscal grounds, especially if they're concerned about adding to the deficit. The SAFE Act, on the other hand, is designed to be self-funding through the payroll tax cap lift. In theory, the additional revenue from taxing high earners covers the cost of the benefit increase and extends the trust fund. But even that gets complicated, because lifting the cap doesn't generate revenue instantly. It phases in over time, and there's a lag between when taxes are collected and when they start making a real dent in the trust fund balance. The other twist is this. Even if both bills passed tomorrow, the increases wouldn't solve the underlying problem of inflation. The $200 helps for 7 months, and then it's gone. The $150 permanent increase helps long-term, but if inflation keeps climbing at 3% or 4% annually, that extra money gets eroded year after year unless the COLA formula actually changes to keep pace. So these bills are steps in the right direction, but they're not magic fixes. They address real problems: inadequate COLAs, unfair tax structures, looming insolvency, but they don't eliminate the financial pressure retirees are feeling. They just make it a little more manageable. Here's what you need to know moving forward. 2 bills are currently in play. The Social Security Emergency Inflation Relief Act proposes a $200 monthly increase from January through July 2026 for Social Security, SSI, railroad retirees, disabled veterans, and veterans' pension recipients. The SAFE Social Security Act proposes a permanent $150 monthly increase, a switch to the CPI-E for COLAs, and elimination of the payroll tax cap for high earners. If both passed, and that's a big if, you could see $200 extra per month for 7 months and then a permanent $150 increase after that, along with better COLA adjustments going forward. Add that to the regular 2026 COLA, which is projected to be around 3% to 3.5%, and yes, you could end up with a total increase that reaches $350 or more, depending on your current benefit level and how the numbers shake out. But realistically, passage isn't guaranteed. The temporary $200 has a better shot because it's time-limited and framed as emergency relief. The SAFE Act is more ambitious and will face tougher opposition, especially around the tax provisions. If you want to influence this, contact your senators and representatives. Tell them these bills matter to you. Public pressure works, especially on issues that affect millions of voters. The more noise constituents make, the harder it is for lawmakers to ignore these proposals. In the meantime, don't count on this money until it's signed into law and you see it in your bank account. Hope for the best, plan for the worst, and keep an eye on what's happening in Congress over the next few months. If this breakdown helped you understand what's really going on with these Social Security proposals, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss updates when things start moving. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Do you believe these bills will pass, or are they just political theater? I'll be tracking this closely and bringing you updates as they happen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.